Hey, what's up, guys? I'm making another video today after probably about a week from my last one. Lots gone on in the world in the last few days, so I figured I'd give my little input on a few things. But one of the things I'm most interested in recently has been always science, but there was an article that came out, even an article, a press release from the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. I'm looking at it right now that says former NOAA scientist confirms colleagues manipulated climate records. Now, I know most people will go right off the bat and say, like, are you a climate denier? Do you deny that humans are, involved in any of this climate change that's going on in this world right now? And that's not the case. My argument is not about what's already been established, what other scientists agree on or not, but mainly more or less about who's peer reviewing this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna say that 97% of scientists agree on something, that has to be true, and that has to be verifiable. So when things like this come out that say that something directly related to it's called the Carl study, and they said it was rushed to publication before the underlying data issues were resolved to help influence public debate about the so-called Clean Power Plan and upcoming Paris Climate Conference. Now, a lot of people who love science or like looking into this stuff that kind of lets you understand how some complex things work in the world, they want to stand by it without peer reviewing. Like, peer review only works if you peer review. I'm not a scientist, so I can't necessarily say I'm as qualified with their certification, but I'm as qualified because I'm a human being to look it up and try to understand it the best I can to make sure that when someone says I should trust their judgment or their certification or their stance, that I can say to myself that I've looked it up enough to understand that they are coming from a place where, I understand so far to understand that I should take their word for it. Now, in this case, we got a whistleblower is what they're calling him, basically on par with, like Snowden, Assange, and Chelsea Manning, saying that they're trying to mislead us for things like the Paris Climate Conference, which Obama, went to, and everybody's coming together to see what kind of regulations we need to combat climate change. Now, I don't, like I said before, I don't not think that we don't have anything to do with some of the things that are going on. I mean, you can look around in different environments, different companies that do things that no one would do, like poisoning water or all these other things just by irresponsible practice. But at the same time, I don't see why we need to mislead people with science. And that's where it's a biggest deal for me, because so many people do go to science for these explanations of things, but they are starting to get to the point where people accept science without ever having any understanding of it. So it's almost like how some people will judge Christianity, or not judge it, I should say, accept it without ever, or religion in general, not just Christianity, but religion in general, without ever looking into it themselves. Some people might look into it and become an atheist. Some people might look into it and become a lifelong Christian. Now, that's up to you to decide. Now, if facts are facts, here we have a situation where it's saying that these facts aren't facts, but yet they've been promoted as such. And it's been done in a way already that no one's noticed until someone came out and said something about it. Now, not too long ago, like last year, there was another situation where this, I forget what it was a scientific journal or something that came out and said that there is a ton of research that's been accepted where the peer review and it hasn't been done. And they started to do some of these peer reviews, and they've started to go over some of these scientific journals and different papers and reports that have been put out into these to be peer reviewed, and they found that they couldn't replicate the claims and the studies. So in my mind, someone who likes to keep up with science, I see a year ago that come out with all these like thousands of scientific journals and studies haven't been peer reviewed, even though they said they were and they were accepted. And now we have this coming out about climate change where they're saying they're messing with the data. And this is something that Barack Obama promoted at the Paris Climate Conference. Our former president. So to me, it makes me look at a lot of the people that are parroting this stuff about science, that when I talk to them and try to get down to the nitty gritty of certain things, and they don't even understand some of the terms, but they'll say science is infallible. I look at it and I'm like, you've become a religious person. You've become someone who has faith, which is a lot of these people that I see talking about it. They hate the term faith. But you're having faith in the fact of these scientists that they know everything and they know what's best, and science has knows what we need to do with our future and our climate, but they're falsifying data. I'm not saying I don't agree or disagree with a lot of the climate change stuff, but this is not good. This is a sign that people are becoming complacent in what they do in their own peer review. Science to you should only be accepted if you've done the peer review as far as your knowledge is willing to take you, and you get to the point where you are confident that you can accept someone else's opinion or honestly their opinion that their work was done well and they had the means to test it. You can sit here all day and say science is true, but unless you come to the knowledge that it's true, you're not going to really convince anyone. Because if you can't explain it, you're just a parrot. But either way, that's one of the things that really irks me nowadays. If you're going to say science works, you need to be able to back it up and not just say, oh, you've got confirmation bias, you're looking for things, Of course I'm looking for things. I don't want to be wrong. I make sure I understand or I try to understand, quantum mechanics and different physics. At least try to get in there and say, okay, this is kind of where they're coming from. What is the initial claim that they're basing off this theoretical physics and math off of? And if you're not capable of doing that, then don't be a person that says science is true. If you cannot break down certain things within science that, to where you can explain it and understand it, don't go around saying that, oh, you're a climate change denier. Oh, you don't understand gravity. Oh, you don't understand this. It makes zero sense if you haven't looked it up yourself and are fully capable of explaining it and understanding it for you to say it's true. Because you haven't even convinced yourself. You've just accepted the opinion of someone else that they told you because you trust them based on something else. So, I wish people would grasp that. I don't trust anybody, and not in a bad way. I trust me and my judgment to be open to really think about what people are telling me. I mean, that comes from anything from politics to religion to science to everything, music. I'm not going to just like a band because someone says they like it and I like their band. I got to quit saying, I've been watching my videos and but it's just, you have to be conscious of your own thoughts and your own opinions. If you're gonna try to say you're right, you have to prove to yourself you're right. You can't say, well, this person said it. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I really feel like this goes over the head of people. That they just accept what someone else says. They'll copy a picture with a quote on it and say, well, that makes sense, so this is true. You know, I fucking love Science, that Facebook page. I used to love it. But it got to the point where I was just kind of repeating stuff. And I would look into it, but then when I talked to other people about it that liked it or you know, just to have a conversation about it because I find it super interesting, people don't look into this stuff. They'll even use my opinion as something that is better than theirs. And I'm like, no, man, if you're going to talk about these kind of things with people and you're going to try to prove other people wrong based on your opinion, you can't just say your opinion is right when it's just from someone else, man. You can't be calling people a climate change denier when you don't even know what 97% of scientists agree upon. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've looked this up and heard the 97% or 98%, depending on which news organization or what news article you're reading, you know, is saying it's not even about 97% of scientists don't all agree on one thing about climate change. They agree that climate change is happening, and they also agree that humans are involved in it to a certain extent. It's not 97% of scientists agree that humans are causing the majority of climate change. It's not that. So if you think that that's what it is, you're wrong. And you haven't looked up anything about climate change. Now you can be watching this video and be like, oh, this guy's a climate change denier. But you haven't looked it up if you think that I am based on what I've said so far. It's as simple as that. Prove me wrong. And it comes as simple as that. You're either going to have the time to say that I'm wrong and look it up and show me where I'm wrong, or you're just going to say that I'm wrong, post about it, and make yourself feel good because you said someone, you know, was a climate change denier. It's getting ridiculous out here how many people think that they are smart because they repeat someone else that is smart. I'm not repeating anybody. I'm not posting articles. I'll post articles to show you where I get my information from, but it's not my job to convince you of what's true or what opinion it is for you to have. It's up to you. If you want to have an opinion that's worth discussing with other people, that's worth trying to convince other people to change their opinion, you have to do the research. You have to look up, why is he saying this? You know what I'm saying? So if I'm saying, I don't think 97% of climate change or the science behind it is all agreed upon by 97% of scientists, you need to look it up. Because if all you're doing is repeating the sentence, you're not going to be able to back it up without just calling me a name. As simple as that. Now, what should go on in your head is, well, it's either I can explain how he's wrong without an article because I've already read an article and I've already brought it to, you know, a credible series of thoughts that made me firm in my opinion that I can tell that to someone else. Or I can say, you know what? I don't really know why he's saying that. Is there a reason why he can say that with such confidence? Because if you can't explain that either, then maybe there's some questions you should ask yourself. And I feel like that's what we don't do in our schools and everything. Don't kind of promote that. You know, you should be trying to ask yourself the questions as to why. Like, if someone wants less regulations on businesses, there's half the country that thinks that. So you got to ask yourself, well, why not try to prove them wrong because your opinion of what you hold is true or whatever. You need to say, well, what would they say that would bring them to that conclusion? What information is out there? I need to quit drinking coffee while I do this because it just makes me like it's the heavy cream or something. I don't know. But you got to really sit down and say, why? What would cause that thought? Why would people say that? And don't be trying to ask it, why? How can I prove them that they're wrong? Like, legitimately go into it saying, if this is the hypothesis, because that's really what it's coming down to. Someone with a different opinion than you has a different hypothesis. And when it comes to climate change, you really can't have anything but a hypothesis, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 20 years. We can project certain things, and we can think certain things are happening. I mean, I remember reading in my freshman year of high school, on the front page of the Toledo Blade, the sun's going to expand and swallow up the earth in 500,000 years. And I'm like, that's front page news in 2000 or 99? Give me a break. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we can project that something's going to happen in 500,000 years, but that is not going to affect us now, or possibly even our civilization, because we might all be dead by then. So, like, really, just come down and say, step off the high horse and say, I don't know. Or say, maybe I do know, but I don't really know how they got to that conclusion in their mind. Because our minds and our ways of thought are so great. What's that quote? It's a sign of an intelligent mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Now, no one's entertaining the thought that climate change might not be completely human caused. Now, you should be able to entertain that thought and find the reasons as to why logically people are coming to that conclusion, or they have that hypothesis. You should be able to without demeaning someone. Because it's just logical. It's just rational conversations, you know. You should be able to have a conversation with someone with a different point of view without being angry, without being upset at them, without making them feel stupid. Because I guarantee you that no matter who you talk to, they can talk about something that you don't understand. And they can make you feel stupid. So no matter what the topic is, there's no reason to make anybody feel stupid, because we all learn something new every day if we're trying to be more intelligent. Now, you could sit around for another 10 years talking about how climate change is real and how stupid everyone else is, but you're doing absolutely nothing to change the minds of the people that you're calling stupid, and you're doing absolutely nothing to understand. Because if climate change is real and you really want to change people's minds, calling them stupid or calling them names and just treating them like they're just unintelligent morons who don't think about anything but themselves and want to destroy the earth is not going to help you accomplish the goal of convincing everybody to take care of things in a different manner in which you think it should happen. But here we are. I'm making a rant video about climate change because I'm tired of being called a climate change denier by people who don't know anything about climate change outside of graphs from memes and Bill Nye on CNN, etc., etc. Prove it wrong. Learn. Look it up. Don't read news articles. Those are opinion pieces. News articles from any mainstream organization is there to sell ads, to keep people reading. So they're going to create polarized views. So even in the articles, they're going to talk smack about the other side, because that creates a conflict, which makes it seem as though there's opposition that's greater than just a conversation. Because they want you to read their articles rather than the other, because so they're going to make the others seem illogical or irrational or dumb or unintelligent on both sides. So why don't you just go read the studies? Why don't you just sit there for about an hour trying to understand different statistics and watch some YouTube videos from scientists and their opinions and say, whoa, this guy thinks this way that's totally different than what I was. Let me start looking up some of the claims he's saying. Let me look up some of the numbers and stats he's saying, and then compare it to these other ones, and then compare it to real world situations. I mean, I was just talking to someone else about this, that even if we have every regulation known to man, we're not going to stop climate change because we got China, India, Russia, Europe, Australia, Africa, South America, everywhere else but here. Not necessarily on par with us in regulations. I mean, we got Germany who does their own thing, which would be great for us to do. But in all reality, if you look up why we're so civilized, it's because we've used coal and oil as energy so easily to build up our civilization that third world countries are begging for oil and coal and different things to make it so that they can build their roads quicker, so that they can have the energy and the power to move their cars and their machinery to build buildings, to have the plastic, to have like my whole room is full of oil, from the very things that make up my computer, this microphone, the stand, everything. So all these things that provide us with this life to be able to say, well, I don't want to destroy the environment, was done through oil. And over the last 200 years, it has been done cleaner. Doesn't mean to say that it's not cleaner to use solar energy, but we've been able to do it better. Now we have a president that has Elon Musk on his team, or not necessarily his team, but one of the people he's going to talk to. This dude's one of the dudes that made gigafactories for batteries and solar panels for roofing shingles. And you guys want to think that he doesn't care about harnessing other energy? When did Obama have anybody in there doing anything about climate change outside of false data to try to convince other people to pay more in carbon taxes and all these other things, more money? At least Donald Trump is talking to people that actually want to make an impact on these things. And I honestly think that we should stop letting Saudi Arabia and all these Middle Eastern countries sell the oil that's going to be sold no matter what we do, no matter what we do with our energy consumption. Saudi Arabia is going to be selling oil. Now, what I think we should do, they're going to be selling, hold up, they're going to be selling oil for only our money. Only our money. Saudi Arabia can't sell oil to France and have them pay them in French money. And France can't convert their money to Saudi money and pay Saudi America for their oil. No, they have to transfer their money over to the bank and print out our money, then buy oil from Saudi Arabia with U.S. currency. Now, in my opinion, if that's going to happen anyways, no matter what we do here in the United States, screw them. Saudi Arabia is anti-everything American on both the right and the left. Take them out of the picture. Have Elon Musk set up roofing shingles on it, or open up the market to where people and different businesses can start making these things so that people here in the United States, we can have battery packs in our houses and run off solar energy, but simultaneously sell our oil for US dollars and have it reinvigorate our economy rather than Saudi Arabia sell it, which it's going to be sold anyways. Get it out of your head that we need to get off oil, because it's not gonna happen yet. It's just not. But if we drop oil completely, our economy tanks, because people need to have our money to buy oil in this world right now. That's the only thing keeping our money up. And if you think I'm crazy for saying that, look it up. If you think I'm crazy for saying what I'm saying, it's because you haven't looked up nothing. But that's the end of my rant for now. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.